The following is intended for mature audiences only. Discretion is advised.
This is a Geek Bro podcast. What's up, besties? This is episode 40. Ate too much during this quarantine, and now everyone's going to definitely see how much weight I've gained when they see me of Childlike at Best with Mike Valdes, and I am still the second part of that title. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you had a great week. I'm so excited about today's episode. Today's episode is Ashley Diaz. Ashley is a very funny New York-based comic. We've known each other for a few years, and she's one of my favorite people. She is so hysterical, and it completely shows in this episode. We, of course, talk about childhood, being Nickelodeon kids, and we also talk about comedy as well. Also, just a forewarning, we did record this on Zoom, so it is going to sound a little bit like a phone call. I tried as best I could to make the quality sound as good as it usually does, but during this time, you just have to kind of bear with me. However, the quality of the conversation is amazing, and I really think that you guys are going to enjoy this episode. So without further ado, please enjoy Ashley Diaz. Have you done any Zoom shows or online shows?
When we first started quarantine, mid-March, I did a show. I remember, like, there was a few laughs, and then midway through, I was like, oh, so this is what this feels like, bombing.
Yeah.
That's how I felt, just because it wasn't, I guess, the same feeling.
Right. At first, I didn't want to do it, and then a part of me was like, you know what? I should at least do one. You never really know, and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I did it, and I hated it. It was awful.
It was painful.
And the thing is, like, I had good reception. Like, people liked what I was doing, but there's just, it's not the same getting laugh emojis as it is hearing people actually laugh at a joke. But yeah, it was a nightmare. I absolutely hated it. But just out of curiosity, where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Miami Gardens.
You're taking up gardening, so it's really helping that you were from Miami Gardens.
Right.
So that's really great.
It's so funny because Miami Gardens literally has no garden. Literally, this little plot of land.
It's also not in Miami, really.
It's behind an airport. It's behind an airport in between St. Thomas University. And it's a strip, and it's just like maybe like 10 trees.
Yeah, that's like to quote a Pete Holmes joke, like that's a place where they would never put like a Panera Bread or a Barnes and Noble, you know, like that's how you know you're in the ghetto.
Yeah.
Like if you're ever in the ghetto and you're scared, just find a Panera Bread or a Barnes and Noble and you'll be fine.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. There's no Barnes and Nobles, no, not even a Starbucks. For a good mile and a half. What do white people like?
I mean, Starbucks is starting to get get pretty international now.
No, though. I mean, number one consumer is a white woman from Starbucks.
Right. Well, that is very true. Absolutely, especially in October. October and November are prime white woman drink months.
Yeah.
This is coming from a barista.
Yeah.
You know, I used to be a barista a long time ago.
Oh, God bless you. You're doing God's work.
Yeah, right.
Dealing with people like that, oh my God. I got in a fight the other day at the grocery store with this old lady. I was minding my business, checking out. She was checking out next to me, and she starts yelling at the cashier, saying, oh, I was wrong. I'm allowed to be wrong. You don't have to give me an attitude. Every time I come here, you give me an attitude. She didn't talk like that. She's just Russian lady. So she was like, you gave me an attitude. That was a bad Russian accent.
I thought it was great.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. Thank you. I see where the bar is. Thank you. But yeah, she was just going off. And I turned around and I was like, no, what we're not going to do is go off on an essential worker.
Right.
Everybody behind me was like, I felt like I was in a Hallmark movie. I just became the protagonist of this movie and I didn't even know it.
Oh, that's so good. Am I Candace Cameron or what just happened?
You got it, dude.
Yeah, that's really crazy, man. Was this a Sedanos or something?
No, this is like a hole in the wall. Like, it was a local shop, a local grocery store that just did produce. They have incredible prices. They're like located by Jackson and Queens, Jackson and Elmer, something like that up there. But it's basically a hole in the wall, and they just do produce, and it's their own. Honestly, she was super rude, and I told her to get out, basically. Like, just get out of here. Nobody wants you here. And everybody's like, yeah. Right. And then she was like, I'm never coming here again. And the cashier's like, we don't want you to. And then my cashier gave me a 20% off. So I was like,
that's so funny.
Doesn't go on.
That's a good person. Like, I feel like I said that before in the customer service industry where people are like, I'm not giving you business anymore. Like, I remember one time there was somebody at a Starbucks that like, they were like cursing me out because we didn't have brown sugar, which is not my fault. It's just
nobody's fault.
It's nothing I can do. It's just like, which, by the way, if you're in the customer service industry, one of the two things you say most of the time during your job is, I don't know, man, I just work here. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I don't know what to tell you. It's not my fault. I just work here. You know, so like, I'm just telling you what it is. And this dude went nuts. We had to like call the police or whatever. And at one point, right before he left, he's like, I'm never giving you guys business. And I was like, sir, we don't need you. Like, we're Starbucks. We'll be fine.
The moment you say that, you break down. You're like, no, wait, he said he's never coming back, guys. We're going to do everything in our power to prevent that from happening. It's like, you think you're that important? Yeah.
The real way to, like, get under an employee's skin is to say that you're coming back.
Right.
Like, that's where the employee's going to be like, oh, man, that sucks. Like, honestly, so it does the opposite effect.
You know, it's funny because I used to work in retail, and then I worked at a restaurant before I worked at the theater. But this was the first time that I was working as a manager. Honestly, I didn't care about how much money I was making. I didn't care about the title. The only thing I loved was when there was a difficult customer and they were being difficult with me, and then they're like, can I speak to the manager? And I'm like, yeah. Hi, the manager. Like,
that's the best.
It's one of those like incredible moments where people think that they can like one up you. And you're just like, no, bitch, I'm going to check you. And it doesn't matter who you think I am.
It's awesome. Oh, I love it. Yeah. You know, I was just thinking about this today in the shower because we're talking about retail. So like, whatever. At one point I worked at the Disney store. It's like unbelievable. And granted, if anyone's listening to this and has worked at the Disney store before, they're going to laugh at the fact that I'm saying this. Is the number one question that Disney store employees get is, where is Shrek? Like, I feel like everybody is always wondering where the Shrek stuff is. And I was like, why do people go into the Disney store and go, where's Shrek? That's like, that doesn't make any sense.
Wait, isn't Shrek DreamWorks?
Yes.
What?
Speaking of Disney, I guess. I don't know how to transition into this. What kind of kid would you say that you were growing up?
I was an energetic kid. I would say I had an appreciation for Nickelodeon cartoons, clearly. Mm-hmm. I was consumed by it. It was interesting because, like, I had a household for 4 years until my brother was born. And even then, it would take 3 more years until he started talking, where I was the only one that knew how to speak English. So the only thing that I had as communication for a long time was cartoons and stuff. I had a very early age an obsession with Barney. To this day, say Barney taught me English. So I'm dead after.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Great.
Hang on, I want to talk about this for a second. I've never talked about Barney on this show. Oh, man. So, like, this is great. So, like, okay. So he was...
Dinosaur.
Yes. So... okay, so here's the thing. Like, so they had Barney, and then when I was growing up, they had Barney and then Baby Bop, and then you're a little younger than me, but at what point did they bring BJ, which is like has not aged well, is naming a freaking dinosaur BJ,
right. Right. And he was like, his voice was annoying. Baby Bop was the shit.
Oh, yeah.
I loved her blanket. I thought it was good.
Baby Bop was the best. I loved her.
Baby Bop came in and she was that bitch. Like, she come mad with her
she was awesome.
Blanket. She was like, what's up? It's time to sing.
Yeah, if you took her blanket, she lost her superpowers. Like,
I didn't like BJ's fucking hat. It was too small for his big ass head. I hated his stupid fucking hat. You understand how much I don't like this. I'm glad you're bringing this up because no one understands how much he had these big ass shoes, big ass red shoes, and he was just his voice was like just obnoxious. It was just.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I remember his voice being really creepy, which makes sense considering what his name is, but it was just like, I feel like when they brought that third dinosaur in, it's like those sitcoms when they bring in the baby on season 5 because they're trying to get more ratings. And you're just like, nobody likes this stupid kid. Like,
probably the only person watching it religiously every day. And then I got older and they were like, fuck, we lost our most viewed person. We gotta come up with some new shit. But yeah, they fucked up with BJ. It was funny because I loved watching it on PBS, obviously, but my mom knew how much I loved it. She redecorated when I was 6. I turned 6, my whole room. I have a picture. I'm just sitting on the bed like this with my hands crossed on my knee, and everything around me is Barney. Everything.
Wow.
Everything. She was like, it was almost like my present for my 6th birthday. She decorated my whole room as Barney.
That's
good
amazing.
Times. And then I remember one of the things I got was like this VHS tapes of the Barney movies, like the Christmas one.
I remember these,
The Christmas one goes hard. The Christmas
I love how we're talking so hard about Barney.
Because
you're like, yo, the Christmas one?
People give shit to Barney, yo. People are like, yes, Barney. I'm like, bitch, everybody likes Barney.
I love this. This is great. We're talking about fandoms and things like that. We talked about, and you were talking about Nickelodeon as well. You were definitely a Nick kid, right? That was like, that's the flag or the camp that you died on.
Nickelodeon.
Yeah. So what were the kinds of stuff that you liked on Nickelodeon as well?
Hey Arnold, The Rugrats, Aria Monsters, Are You Afraid of the Dark? Ren and Stimpy, Rocko's Modern Life.
Right.
Did I say Cat Dog? I loved all that. I loved the Amanda Show. SpongeBob. Nickelodeon gets it.
I agree.
Time. It was a beautiful time for television. It was a beautiful time.
Nickelodeon was awesome because it was like family friendly, but it was like edgy family friendly, because they talked about farts and stuff.
Remember Kablam? Kablam was like
absolutely
edgy as fuck. It was.
They had a character that was butt naked.
Ren and Stimpy is super edgy. I don't know. I feel like they definitely pushed the envelope.
Absolutely, I loved it. And you were talking about all that and stuff. I feel like we've had this conversation before. Was all that the show that as a kid you were like, I could be an actor, like I could do this because like these kids are doing it?
I would say all that was the one, but I would say more Kenan and Kel, and then watching the movie, the Good Burger, movie.
Mm-hmm.
When I watched Good Burger, the movie, I was like, this is incredible. Like, I just, how silly it was, how like...
I definitely agree. It came out at the right time for us. If we were 13 or 14, that would have been a movie that we saw and we were like, this movie's stupid.
Yeah.
But the fact that we were 8, it's just like, this movie understands me, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, at least that's how I felt.
It was like this weird idea. Like, growing up in Miami, you don't get the full American experience, from the fact that you don't get all the seasons to, like, the fact that majority of the people that you talk to and interact with are not. They're usually first, second, maybe third generation American. For the most part, it's immigrants and first generation. So I wasn't really like, the only place where I can truly be American was through television before the internet.
Sure.
And then the internet came down, and then 1998 Windows over here. My grandpa got me a computer, and it was
yeah. You got your 200-hour free trial from a box of Chex Mix. Yeah, it was great. That's so good. And so, what brought the performer gene out of you? Can you remember a time growing up where you were like, "This is something I want to keep doing"?
Well, I would say at a very young age, my mom had me just doing different forms of art because of my grandpa. Grandpa's an artist, and I was like attracted to like his artwork, like sculpting and stuff like that. And for a little bit, like pottery. And then as I got older and I got into middle school, I started taking drama, and that's when I like had this introduction to improv. And then in high school, it just went crazy with the improv. And then I would do, it's funny because like in my comedy now, I don't really do impersonations, but in high school, I would do impersonations of all the teachers because it was a pretty small school. And we just do a lot of plays in high school. And then after that, it was just, I went straight into school, and then I was tour guiding. And I think it was like my third year tour guiding. I was like, my whole life, I've been doing this thing of like performing. Why can't I make money from it? I guess it was like my idea of thinking like it's not stable. And then I dropped some acid, and then a month later, I was like, comedy.
You dropped acid, and then a month later, you decided to do comedy?
Yes.
How does that work?
I don't know. I don't.
That's a great answer.
I just take it. No, I mean, I was in a place where I had just finished my associates in business. I was going to continue to get a degree in marketing. And I just felt like I was doing this because it was safe. It felt safe. And then, you know, I was like, what have I always had there? And it's a comedy.
That's awesome. I love it. What were your favorite snacks growing up?
Gushers, Funyuns. I didn't care that I had steak bread. I loved the Funyuns.
They were fun.
They're so good. So good. Funyuns. Anything like fruity and gummy that can pass as a snack, but it was really candy.
Yeah.
That was
anything bad for your teeth.
Yeah.
Were you a cereal person growing up?
Loved Cinnamon Toast Crunch as a kid.
Okay.
Like, that was something I did watching cartoons in front of the TV, eating cereal. And then during the commercials, I would look at the cereal box and read those cereal boxes because I hated commercials. And then I'd go back to...
Which, ironically, the back of a cereal box is a commercial.
They gotta get you somewhere.
Yeah.
But I thought I was beating the system.
You might remember this, but did you by any chance get Nickelodeon cereal?
Nickelodeon cereal.
They were orange, and they looked like the Splat logo. And then they had green Marbits in it that represented slime. Do you remember this at all?
I remember, never got a chance to try it.
I definitely remember it. I'm pretty sure I tried it, and it's not very memorable. So, like, there's rarely do any of these novelty cereals become very memorable. Like, kids growing up these days are not going to be like, man, remember Frozen 2 cereal? That was the best.
Frozen 2 cereal hits the spot every time. Nice and cold. You know, it's funny because I remember seeing
cold.
Ice cold, baby. I remember seeing the cereal at Universal Studios. Tell me how ridiculous I am. I thought the Nickelodeon Studios in Orlando was the legit Nickelodeon Studios.
It was at a time.
I mean, yeah, but like the one that they open to the public isn't. That's just like a fake little simulation where they said, I thought I was actually on a show, and they picked me as an audience. I remember as a kid, I think, you know what, going back to that question of you asking when did that happen, like the moment you knew, I was probably 7, and I was at Universal Studios, and I was getting slimed, and I was like, this is where I want to be.
Oh, no.
And I thought I was on TV. Like, I was on TV. I swear to God. I was like, when are they going to put this stuff?
How funny is it? Because, like, if for the people that I'm laughing because I'm it's finally coming back into my memory of like being on these like fake shows that they had. Oh my gosh. For people that had never been there before that are listening, they would have a setup, and it was basically like a Double Dare setup kind of, where like you kind of like did like a mini game, and then they would ask a kid if they wanted to get slimed, and then they would put you in a kiddie pool and slime you. There were cameras that were there with people operating them. Yeah. The cameras were not on. The cameras. There was a guy holding a boom mic that was not connected to anything. And like, as kids, we're like, this is gonna be on TV.
Yeah, all the kids bought it. We all bought it. All of us, like it was Santa Claus. We bought it. So
hook, line, and sinker, dude. Oh my gosh, that's so funny, man. Oh my gosh. So something that we like to do on this show is we like to review a box of cereal. You know, all that to say, we like to review a box of cereal. And I usually like to get a cereal that has something to do with my guest in some way, shape, or form. So I spoke with my sponsors over at Funko. Now, by sponsor, I mean that I like them and I buy all their products. And by spoke to, I mean that I tweeted them repeatedly and they didn't get back to me. Oh. So the cereal that I chose for you is Nickelodeon Rocko's Modern Life cereal.
Rocko!
Yeah, Rocko's Modern Life.
Rocko's Modern Life.
We have reviewed this in the past. However, I wanted to call an audible because you're a Nickelodeon kid. So as you can see, the box here, it has Rocko, and then there's a toy inside right there. It has some little purple O's. And then in the back here,
I love the pastel.
It has a little maze here that has Rocko's house or a television, or was his house a television? I don't know.
It was the intro to the show. The last thing that we saw was the TV. So you knew that he knew somewhat that this was a TV show. It was the dopest thing ever.
So it would be fun to review this cereal. But I feel like it would be more fun to review this cereal as Rocko from Rocko's Modern Life. I know this is kind of difficult because we're having to use our imagination and we can't actually review the cereal. But when this is all over and edited, I'll have music underneath it. It's going to be great. But I want you to review this cereal as Rocko or a character from Rocko's Modern Life.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. This is hard. Oh my gosh.
I know.
I'm trying to remember Rocko's voice. I don't know. Australian. He's Aussie. He has a high. It's a little high. It's like in the back of the throat.
Yeah, a little bit. Like, oh, heifer.
Yeah.
Kind of like that. Oh, heifer. Oh no.
This is Rocko's. This is Rocko's cereal.
It's so good. No, you know what? It started off like my favorite impressions of all time, which is, hi, I'm the person I'm doing an impression of. That is the best way to start an impression.
That's all right. I like to eat it a bowl right before I go to work to my job. As a telemarketer, I like to do sex voices on the phone. I get paid for those
That's
voices.
very true.
And come back home, I eat another bowl of cereal, watch some TV, and I go back to sleep and do it all over again. I'm about to
my gosh. Oh my gosh. Rocko's Modern Life cereal, ladies and gentlemen. We did it. They said it couldn't be done. They were probably right, but we did it.
Oh, man. Sorry, Rocko. I butchered your voice. But...
He listens every week, but I'm sure he'll be fine. This episode of Childlike at Best with Mike Valdes is brought to you by the Crunch Cup. Save time in the morning by taking your cereal on the go. Simply add cereal to the inner cup, milk into the outer cup, screw on the lid, and you're ready to crunch. Eat cereal in the car, at your desk, or anywhere else you want. Go to thecrunchcup.com to purchase what I think is a genius invention and use the discount code MikeValdes10. That's Mike, M-I-K-E, Valdes, V-A-L-D-E-S, the number 10, to save 10% off of your order. You can also sign up for their monthly giveaway to win a year's supply of cereal. So what are you waiting for? Go to thecrunchcup.com and use promo code MikeValdes10 to save 10% off of your order. The Crunch Cup. It's better than spooning. This episode of Childlike at Best with Mike Valdes is brought to you by Real Good Foods. I am so excited to announce that Real Good Foods has launched their very first dessert item, ice cream. Real Good ice cream is the first ever super premium better for you ice cream. It's extra creamy, so there's no icy or chalky texture like other light ice creams, making it a real ice cream experience with real ingredients. Only 180 calories and 4 grams of sugar per serving. Real Good ice cream is sweetened by using allulose, which isn't like regular sugar. It's a naturally occurring rare sweetener found in figs, dates, and maple syrup. Ultimately, it has 1/10 the calories of cane sugar, which means it won't spike your blood sugar levels. Real Good ice cream comes in a variety of flavors, and starting today, they can be found at realgoodfoods.com and the Vitamin Shop. And guess what? Real Good Foods is giving all Childlike at Best listeners a discount code that'll make us all scream for ice cream. Visit realgoodfoods.com, choose as many of your favorite items, and use promo code BESTIE at checkout. That's BESTIE at checkout to receive 15% off your order. Real Good Foods. Keep it real. So I want to move on into what you're doing now. I want to move into comedy and all that kind of stuff. So clearly, being on this fake Nickelodeon show at Universal Studios brought this out of you. So
my
clearly,
performance as a Universal
right. But what was the inspiration to finally be like, comedy is what I want to do? Whether it was through improv or whether it was through sketch or stand-up or whatever, just take me through it from the beginning.
I would say the moment that I was like, I'm all in, I would say, again, I'm going to go back to tour guiding. And everybody has their style, obviously, performing in a way that is going to entice the audience. And I found that you got more tips if you made people laugh. So I incorporated like a ton of like jokes and things like in the tour to basically, make it fun and funny where people were laughing and enjoying themselves, and I was going to make more money at the end of the thing. So a normal day, I was doing a tour, and it was, I swear, I will never forget, it was in front of the Miami Beach Fire Department on Day Boulevard. And we were heading back to the city, and I was like, why am I not doing comedy? I did a joke, and I was like, why am I not doing comedy? Like, it was the weirdest moment. It was like a moment. It was like daunting. And then after that, I tried stand-up 2016. I did a set, and then after the set, they had to do an improvised 2 minutes of a random thing that an audience member suggested, which for me was hair in strange places. I completely blanked, and I was like, I need to get back to my roots. So then I went back into improv where we met. And then after improv, it was a studied. I mean, you saw literally day and night. I was doing improv for 2.5 years.
We both
and then
were.
I was like, okay, yeah. And it just got to where like, I need to make my own content. I need to perform, get my own ideas out there. And I fell in love with. I loved the feeling the first time, but I felt so insecure. It took 2 years for me to feel like I have the foundation now of what comedy is, or at least an idea of what comedy is, and I know how to break it down. And I love everything about comedy. I love sketch, I love stand-up, I love improv, you name it. I love TikTok.
Absolutely. Hey, 14-year-olds need to laugh too, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I heard a joke recently, and I forgive me if this is you, and I think it's someone else, but I'm pretty sure it was you. I heard a bit about TikTok, which was that there's no middle ground.
Yeah, that's
there's
me.
kids that are just like, yes.
Oh,
it was such a good joke. Such a good joke. Such a good joke. And it proves how good it is, because I couldn't distinguish whether it was you or like a Comedy Central Presents YouTube video, where I was like, oh man, like this is a really good observation about what TikTok is. So for the listener, the premise of it is that there's no middle ground, right? It's either you're the hottest of the hot or you're just completely not at all, right? Yeah. I mean, you could probably say it better because you wrote it, but
that's exactly the premise. It's I set it up for, I'm just like, you're either super hot or you're super not.
Yes.
Like there's no in between, and then there's just like random like sprinkles of like older people that have like a very niche thing that they do. And then everybody's dancing, and then like at the time, it's not that popular anymore, but everybody was doing the renegade. So I actually go and I do the dance, and then I just start calling people out by like the groups like that they were like millennials, Gen Z, and then I was like the boomers in the back. The boomers like that joke. They're like, yay!
That's hilarious. So in 2016, you start doing stand-up. What were your first jokes like? Like, run me through your first like ideas. Were they working? Were they not?
It's crazy because now trying to incorporate more storytelling into my stuff, because I've been working more just set up punchline jokes. And at the time, I did for 5 minutes. I just did a story. I had just gotten arrested for the first time in my life for driving with a suspended license. It was the worst day of my life. It was Memorial weekend. I was driving to the beach to go to work. I was like in my uniform, and they pull me over because they're pulling anybody over that they ruined their tags because it's Memorial weekend. And they pull me over. They're like, your license is suspended. It's been suspended for 3 months. You're going to jail. I'm like, what? Yeah, like that. And then I was like, there's no way. And then they're like, yeah, you're driving willingly with a suspended license. So they arrested me. And then it was Memorial weekend. So then they arrested like people who actually were like causing mayhem on the beach. There was the regulars, like the homeless guy in the wheelchair. If you ever go to the beach on 10th in Washington, there's a guy jacking off in a wheelchair. Like that's his thing. He just jacks off in a wheelchair. And then we also it was a van, so there was a few of us. And then there's 2 girls. They had blue wigs, and they were called the Smurf Twins, and they were strippers.
Of course they were.
Of course they were. They ended up fighting in front of Fat Susie's on Ocean Drive. It was the worst stereotypical.
That's weird. They seem so classy.
Yeah, it was just like, oh, bruh, like, come on. Don't. Why are you giving them the feed? Oh, whatever. You know what? They were hilarious. They honestly made me feel a lot better. They were like, girl, this is nothing. She's like, why are you here? And I was like, I was driving with my license. And she's like, girl, you're going to be out in 6 minutes, in 6 hours. Get out of here. I was like, I'm a good girl. And then I remember when they put us into the cell, I was in there for like 2 hours, and then my mom picked me up. But I remember when I got inside, there was a lady on the first bunk thing. She goes, how long are you going to be here? And I was like, I don't know, maybe a few hours. And she was like, okay, can you give me your socks? And I was
That's
like,
so weird.
I know, this is so fucked up that I'm laughing. And then I gave her my phone. I was like, she's going to be here longer than me. And then I was like, I'm not going to eat here either. You want my food? And she was like, yeah, thanks. And I was like, cool. And then I just remember laying there looking up at the ceiling, and I'm just like, I'm the biggest piece of shit in the world.
But how so? Like, I don't even... that makes no sense.
I never imagined that happening to me.
I get it, you know, because, like, you never thought you'd, like, go to the slammer.
Oh. And, like... and for that.
Yeah, I know.
All you need is 1,200 for bail.
So you've been doing comedy since 2016. Was that when you started improv as well?
Yeah, I mean, immediately after that, I did that first set, I went into improv. I started doing improv.
Oh, okay, cool. So clearly you've had some bad shows.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Well, I would love for you to tell me some.
Those shows together, Mike.
I know. I would love to reminisce with you.
Oh, great. Comedy right now, to begin with, like, not only do we have to deal with fucking hecklers and audience members who think that their opinion matters to begin. I'm sorry you think your opinion matters. And then not only deal with them, but then deal with the online trolls, like everybody on the internet, and everybody has an opinion.
I'm so glad that you said this, because it's weird when it comes to, especially now, because, like, if you don't have an opinion in this day and age, then what currency do you have as a human being?
It's crazy. I honestly had thought about this because I watched certain people perform, and I feel like now more than ever, it's like if you're a comedian and you get heckled, you must address it. And then I was like watching this tape. It was, I think, they were filming his specials for Emo Phillips. He was getting like, you could hear the audience, because you know how awkward he is. Half of the audience was. Majority of the audience was cheering for him because they knew the punchline was coming at the end. It was going to be crazy. And then there was like one or two people in the back, you could hear him go boo, but he does not stop for them. And then it's a roar of laughter. And then it almost makes me like, should we deal with hecklers by pretending like they're not there? Like, is that going to be the new thing to do? Because I feel like having to stop a show for a heckle, not saying that, trust me, one of the funnest things to do on stage is like, I wish you would heckle me, because we are going to go at it. I'm going to make you feel like the biggest piece of shit on the planet.
It's tough, man, because, like, I hate having to address people.
I think as long as you do it fun, like, I'm sorry to cut you off, but like one of my
you're good.
people to handle heckle is probably Robin Williams. Like, if you ever go back and listen to his, like, there's this one set that he does where at the beginning of the show, this guy in the back is just drunk and heckling him. And he goes to the front of the stage and he pretends he's a pastor of some sort, like a minister. Yeah. And he's like, everybody, let's join hands and let's pray for this idiot in the back.
Yeah. I've seen the clip. It's amazing. It's in the documentary, the HBO documentary.
Oh, yeah, it is. It is in the documentary.
Yeah, but, it's beautiful. You know, we're already talking about hecklers and things like that. This woman was super drunk during every single comedian, and at one point you were up there, and you were the only girl on the bill, which is so Miami. And
it's all coming back to me. We're at the hotel, the Delano Hotel. No, not the Delano. It
was at a hotel.
Yes.
It was at a hotel.
Room. Yeah. Yes. The lady from New York. The lady from New York. Oh my gosh, she was a nightmare. Oh my god.
Yeah, you quite literally lived out my nightmare. Like, she was not only heckling every single comic, but she went up while you were doing stand-up and took the microphone from your hands.
Well, she tried. But I did. What? It was a tug. It was a tug.
Yes, that's what it was. You guys fought for a minute.
Like, it was crazy because I was like, okay, fine. You want to talk and no one wants to kick you out. Let's get to know who you are. And that triggered her. And then when I went like this, she tried to grab the mic, and I was like, no, that's not going to happen today. And it was a good like 4 back and forth. And then I yanked it. And then she was like, and then she sat down and then started trying to talk to the guy in front of her, but he was ignoring her. And I was like, all right, that just happened. I was like, I don't know how they do things in New York, but we don't just go up to people with microphones and just like that. Like, is that how they do things? Like, what part of New York is from? Oh, she got mad at me because I said that she sounded like Azealia Banks. What the fuck is that?
She did sound like her.
And I was like, why is that offensive?
It wasn't a great show, but I remember it being a really good memory because after the show, we talked for like 3 hours. It was like a really great conversation. So it's a great memory in my head where I still remember like, oh yeah, the show was bad, but it was a great night. But like being in New York and stuff like that, what are some other Hell Gig stories that you can tell me?
I would say the second week I was here, it was like 7:30 in the morning. I get on the subway. I sit down, and then there's a lady who has her legs just wide open, and then she's just like flashing everybody with her vagina, and everyone's just on the other side of the cart. But I just love how everyone just adapted so quickly. Like every time the doors would open, she'd be with her. People would look in the car like this and then just walk over to the other side. Like there was no response. Like children, like everybody. That every time we got to a stop and we opened the gate, and then she'd be like, her legs open, and he'd be like, like so I love the vibe of just being able to just assist, assess, and continue. Like,
gosh, that's terrifying.
That experience alone, I was like traumatized by how normal it was. It wasn't even the vagina.
Well, yeah, that's New York. Yeah,
I loved it. It was, yeah, I would say that was fun. That was a lot of fun. When I first also got here, I ended up camping out for 12 hours for the NBC thing, for the stand-up NBC.
Oh, really?
Audition. Yeah. I was like, let's do it. Because I had missed the deadline to submit. And I was like, you know what, just fucking show up, go early. I went early, like at 9 o'clock at night. The auditions were at 9. And I went, and there was maybe 4 people in front of me. And then I was like, you know what? I'm coming back. I got all my stuff, went to the club, and we just sat there and waited for 12 hours until we were allowed to go in and perform.
And what was the performance like? How did it feel?
So good. I felt so nervous. It was nerve-wracking because you're waiting for 12 hours anxiously with like a line of like 200 comedians. We all like, you know, mingle with each other. It was really a great networking experience. Like we ended up playing like a bunch of games outside, like Cards Against Humanity, but with like memes and stuff. And we were just thug it. It was just fun to see everyone thug it out. Like these are like people being like, I want this fast, you want this fast. I respect you on that alone. And like no matter how things go inside. And I was just like, go over your step. Have fun. Like I just kept telling myself like a train, like have fun. Like Thomas the Train. I was like, check it. I went on stage. I remember the person who in front of me. I don't know if you know him. He's from Florida, from Miami. Paul Juliet. He used to do improv at Just the Funny, but he also does stand-up. He went right before me, so I went up, and I was the only person who was like, give it up, keep it going for Pa. Like the only person who went up and like said, keep it going for the comedian. People laughed at that.
I was the only person that went up and said what you should say when you get up there.
Yeah, well, I think the nerves, you know, all the nerves, like everyone's just like, focus on my set, don't fuck up my punchline. Like all of it's anxiety that you're feeling and then you go on stage and then you hear the first laugh and it goes away. And I fucking felt really good about it. I ended up making a callback, which was the second round. And it was now like 50 of us in there. And that was the one right before the semifinals, which is like performing in front of like producers and like agents and stuff. I did make it to the third round, but I feel like, you know, that was pretty good for my first time doing that competition.
I think that's amazing.
Really good.
Yeah, you should feel good about it.
The second round was the 24 hours after.
Oh, so, trust me, I know all about this stuff.
48 hours of anxiety. No sleep.
Yeah, I know exactly how you feel. I made it through when they were doing, it might have been the X Factor. I auditioned for it with a couple of buddies. We went to Louisiana. We took a road trip to Louisiana and we auditioned, and I made it through to like a bunch of different preliminaries, which, like, here's the thing that a lot of people may not know. I mean, with stand-up, it's a little bit different, I would assume, but it's probably also very similar. This is a music competition or a singing competition, so there's hundreds of thousands of people that go to these auditions, and they hold you inside of an arena. And the truth is, you know, and one of my best friends said this, and it's just the truth. We were having this conversation with a couple of friends that we had met, and they were like, "Oh, I'm just so nervous," and things like that. And he was like, look at it like this. We're in an arena full of people. The truth is, are you going to tell me that in this entire arena, there's only 5 people that know how to sing? It's literally like putting a plastic bag inside of a full aquarium and expecting not to get a fish.
Yeah.
It's just not possible. They want something specific. So if you don't get chosen, don't look at it like you should stop singing and you're not good.
Yeah.
Look at it as like, hey, maybe not this time, but the next time, like that kind of thing. And that really just like settled it in my head for me. And it has settled it for so many other things that I've auditioned for, which is the truth, because 9 times out of 10, it is never because of your skill. It is always because they're looking for something specific, and for some reason you just don't have it. There's nothing that you can really do to change that, you know, and it has nothing to do with you being good or bad at what you do. I think that making it through to the second round for your thing with the NBC stand-up thing is incredible. Like, that's amazing. There's hundreds of thousands of people that would love to get where you were. Yeah,
exactly. It feels like an accomplishment in that sense, like, you know, considering that there's people that have been doing comedy for over 10 years and haven't gotten that far. For me, it was like, oh, so I'm working with something. I got something there that I can keep. Even if I wouldn't have gone, I don't think it would have stopped me from doing stand-up. It was a nice reassurance. That's what it was. Like, but I feel like that every time I go to any auditions, like even like with acting auditions, like, as you know too, you've gone to plenty of auditions where you make it past, you know, 4 callbacks, and then you get the call, and then you're like, oh, we decided to go another way. I remember there was a callback. I was first choice. And it was between me and this other girl. I know they were basically making their choices based off of our skin color. They're like, do we want to go with a light skin girl or a dark skin girl? That was basically what it was a factor. They went with her, which, you know, hindsight, I'm glad they went in the direction that wasn't the stereotypical one if they're going to base her off of color, which is going with the light skin girl. You know, it sucks for me.
Right.
But for the people and for the culture, it didn't suck. So, you know, you hit and you miss, you hit and you win. This is a game. This is the game. It's show business, baby.
That's a good way of putting it.
Who knows? You know? Maybe down the line, one of those producers remember me in another audition that I do. That's how I feel.
Exactly.
I feel like exposure is the key here. I think the more people you get in front of, and the more people that you get in front of and do well in front of, the more chances and opportunities are going to open. You know, and then obviously, I think ultimately, though, despite our talents, it's working, unfortunately. That's ultimately what it is. Talent and everything, of course, has to do with it because people are gonna. But there's how many comedians do you know of that are like out here touring, making a living, and they're not that great? Not even that great. They're not great. Period.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
No, I know exactly what you mean, but that's just how it works sometimes. You just never know, with this kind of stuff.
In New York was through an agency that used to book me as a freelance casting assistant in Miami. And that's the only reason why I got a job when I moved up here, is because I reached out and they were like, absolutely. And I got that job. And then from there, I started figuring out what exactly I wanted to do with my time during the day while doing stand up at night.
Yeah.
It's honestly, it's mostly not networking.
It's mostly not working? What?
No, networking.
It's mostly networking.
Yeah.
It's also mostly not working.
Yeah.
But it's true. Yeah. It's the truth. So we talked about the hell gig. I love talking about hell gigs because it's always the funniest thing, but something that I think is really fun as well is to talk about and reminisce on the good things. So tell me about some of the times that you've been on stage and you were just like, man, this was the best.
Times I was on stage. Well, this is going to go to high school. I remember, so they had the class valedictorian, and then they had the most popular, like they voted, like, I think it was like 6 people to vote to have like a speech, and it was going to be basically the House of Representatives. So this is the student who the kids like as a whole, the class voted for that we want as a representation. But so Catholics, they chose me, which I was like what? Like, it was crazy. Like, I had no idea. It was 2 weeks before graduation. I remember going on stage, and I remember doing a bunch of jokes in the speech. And I remember I was like, I'm gonna cry on purpose, like as a joke, and then I ended up crying for real. And everybody thought it was a joke, but I was crying for real. And I was like, I do this whole thing where I talk about everybody in school, and then I was like, I know Savannah, what? And I was like crying through it. I was like, I want to thank my mommy and my papi. And I was like, mommy. And I started doing the speech in Spanish.
Oh my gosh.
And then, I just, it was so ridiculous. It is funny because I think like maybe 2 or 3 people's parents or someone recorded it. And I've never fully seen the video because I feel like it's stressful. But I remember when I performed, it was like I was looking at everybody in the audience, and everybody was like, "This is great."
Yeah.
The feeling was like it was like I was like on a sitcom, and it felt like heartfelt. And I was graduating with like my best friend from first grade. It was a good time on stage. I don't know. I would say that was definitely one of those performances.
I love it. I would even say another highlight for you is that NBC thing. I feel like that is also a highlight for you. I mean, not to put feelings in your heart or anything like that, but it should be.
No. Well, the NBC thing was incredible. I feel like the second performance, I remember I was doing more edgy jokes, and I was contemplating on, should I go the safe route? It's NBC. And I was just in my head, and I said, you know what? They're going to like me for me, or they're not going to like me.
Right.
So I went up there. I did my fun jokes about weed, and then I started talking about abortion. And everyone in the audience laughed. I feel like it was received really well. Because I do this thing in the bit where I make like a blender sound, and then I go, and then I feel like it looks like I'm squatting, and the blender is my vagina. Right. That sound reminds me of my abortion. And then I go into
That's funny.
it. But it was a free performance where I felt like Like, I didn't care at that point if I was going to get through the second round or not. I was like, I'm going to do my fucking shit, and I'm going to own it.
Which is how you should look at it. I want to ask you just a couple more questions before I let you go. One question that I want to ask you that I feel is really important. I know. This has been great, right?
Yeah.
This was a blast. I told you it would be fun.
But always with you.
You never argued with me, but I'm like, I'm pretending like I'm pretending like this was the hardest thing for me to book. Like, you know, it was only hard for me to book because we're both busy. I've actually been trying to have you on since like, you're going to be at almost 50, like almost episode 50. I've been wanting to have you when we were in the single digits, you know, but man. You were busy or I was busy or you were moving or whatever.
I was moving, and then I was the second time, I remember I was visiting Miami, and it was just the timing of it, and then I had to go, I had to leave the next day. And you know, it's crazy. In February, I'm glad I didn't see you, because not because of you, but because of me. I'm 99% sure I had the coronavirus. I remember telling you I was sick, remember?
Yeah, I do.
I was in quarantine for 2 weeks. I quarantined myself. I had a fever. I had chest pains. I went to the doctor to get flu shots to see if it was the flu and other things. Nothing. It all came back negative. And this is before they were testing for coronavirus.
Right.
So I'm pretty sure I had it.
Right. I'm pretty sure I had it as well back in January or something like that, because I had a bunch of the symptoms, but you never know, because it came at a weird time, because it came during flu season. So it's weird, especially back in January and February, we weren't testing for it. So we don't really know whether we had it or not. Good thing is we survived. But anyway, all that to say, it took a global pandemic, but we're here. And
it was great.
Yeah. So I think that it's really important in this podcast, because I love talking about childhood, and I love talking about the things that we wanted as children, because all I can remember from being a kid was I couldn't wait to grow up. I couldn't wait to grow up because it meant like, oh man, like I get to have fun. I can be on TV, like, you know, all this stuff, you know? And then I just feel like it's important to keep the 9 or 10-year-old version of yourself, the childlike version of yourself, happy. So the question that I want to ask you is, do you think that if the child version of you met you right now, would that kid think that you're cool?
What a great question. Oh, man.
I just started asking this recently, and I love this question. I freaking love this question.
Oh, man. Well, that's so good. This is a great question. I love it. Keep doing it. It's so good. But, you know, I think you're absolutely right. We all struggle with trying to keep that kid in us alive, because that's when we were the most authentically ourselves. Like we liked something, and we liked it because we liked it. Maybe we're influenced by other things, but I think there was some kind of thing that we held as children, where like the innocence of being a kid. I would know the 9-year-old Ashley would have so many questions. She'd be like, "You smoke weed?"
Yeah.
I thought weed was like crack cocaine. I mean, that's what they teach us as a kid and dare. Like, super bad, and smoking is bad.
Yeah. I mean, I went to a Christian school, so you're going to hell. But.
Yeah, for sure. I think 9-year-old Ashley would be happy that I'm in New York. I think as a 6-year-old coming to New York for the first time to visit my grandpa, I remember looking up, like, the whole time I was like this. And I was thinking, wow, this place is awesome.
Right.
Like,
wow, so they made Home Alone 2 here.
Yes. It was, I mean, I remember getting getting in a fight with my mom, like maybe a few months after I went to New York for the first time. I was like maybe 6.5, 7. And I got in a fight with my mom and I was like, I don't care what you say. I'm moving with my grandpa to New York. She's like, okay. And she grabs my bag, like my little like book bag. She puts like 4 pairs of shirts in there and pants, and she zips it up and puts it on me and leaves me outside the front door. And she's like, bye. And I start banging on the door. I'm sorry. But yeah, I think 9-year-old has to be happy. I'm in New York. I think she'd be excited that I'm doing comedy. Like the fact that I'm still like happy with life. That I haven't conformed. I think she'd be happy about that. I think she'd be surprised with some of the life choices that I've made. Definitely, you know, the rest would be something to blow her mind. Like, we got arrested.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think ultimately, I think she'd be proud of who I am today.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I feel like that question is so important because it reminds us who we are when we're in the highs of the highs. And then it also reminds us how great we have it when we're in the lows of the lows, which is one of the reasons why I started doing this with my guest, was because it's something I did with myself all the time. How would an 8 to a 10-year-old Mike feel about the fact that I got 3 callbacks but didn't get the job? That kid would be like, you got a callback?
Right.
You got an audition? You
figured out how to actually, like, okay, when I found out that the slime and the Universal Studios wasn't real, it was devastating.
It all comes back around, baby.
Yeah. It was devastating.
Yeah.
And then I remember when I first like started getting into auditioning and like interning at Universal and just getting to understand what the business was like. I almost got scammed. Everyone goes through that, especially if you don't come from a line of like people in the entertainment business. You go through all those walls. So the fact that I figured it out, she'd be like, what the fuck? Figured out what it was, at least.
Exactly.
Like, there's so many people that don't figure it out at all. Like they're in the industry, but they don't figure out the game. And I feel like I haven't figured out everything. I don't know everything about the industry. I think as time goes on and people change and all that stuff, different things that you end up doing. But I think for for that alone, going to audition, being able to go and audition for somebody.
Right. Which is crazy because when it's your job and it's your everyday life, it's something that you're like, man, I got to do this stupid thing and I got to see all these stupid people that look exactly like me and like, you know, all this freaking crap. And then the truth is, like, the kid version of you would be like, are you serious? This is awesome, dude. That's amazing. You know, I always try to remember how that kid would feel. And I feel like I wanted to bring that to my podcast and to bring it to my guests as well, to remind them, you know, that the truth is the fact that you're doing this and you're succeeding, even though it may not feel like you are, is a triumph, you know, in other aspects. But yeah, this has been so much fun, Ashley. Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh my gosh, Mike, this has been so fun. Honestly, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Where can people find you online? Let them know.
My handle everywhere is Ashley Buenos Diaz. So Ashley and then BUENOSDIAZ. That's on Instagram. I'm trying to get my Twitter game up right now since we're in quarantine. I'm just going to be on there a lot. I have a TikTok, also the same handle. Don't have as much stuff, but I do have a few clips you could see, some stand-ups and some stuff I worked on YouTube. So you can see that. And then, if you go on my Instagram, I'm always posting like anything that I'm doing. If I'm doing anything online, I'll definitely plug this.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's awesome. And definitely follow her on social media and watch her videos. They're honestly so good. If you're anyone like me, you will think that they were just a Comedy Central comedian. You know, no, but it's true though. It's true though. But yeah, follow her. She's a longtime friend of mine, and I love hearing anything about what you're doing, and I love seeing your success and all that kind of stuff. And I wish all the best for you. And
same, Mike.
But anyway, oh, thanks. That's really kind.
You want it.
For me, you can find me on Instagram at Mike Valdes, on Twitter at I am Mike Valdes. You can go to whoismikevaldes.com to find out the answer to that question. And I also have an album on Spotify, on Apple Music, on all that stuff with my band, Mike Valdes and the Noise. The name of the album is Dreamer. It's a piano rock album. You're going to love it. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen. This has been an episode. Subscribe, tell all your friends so we can grow this family. Bye, besties. Thanks so much for being on. This is awesome.
So much. It'd be great. It was such a great concept, and you're always fun. So it was
thanks.
An honor.
That was a Geek Bro podcast. For more podcasts like this one, visit geekbro.net.